My brother laughed at me. Not a nervous laugh, the kind that slips out when you're unsure, but a cruel, sharp one that cuts through silence. He leaned back in Dad's old leather chair, the one that still smelled faintly of tobacco and authority, and said, "We don't need your pocket change, Claire." Mom didn't look up from her papers. Her voice was cool clipped. "This is serious business, sweetheart. Let your brother handle it." I just stood there holding the folder I'd spent 2 months preparing: financial models, a scaling plan, a line of sustainable skincare that had been my idea, back when we still called it ours. Now apparently it was his. They didn't even bother to open the folder. My mom's tone carried that soft, maternal dismissal that always hurt worse than anger. Like she wasn't rejecting my idea, she was rejecting me. "You've always had a kind heart, Claire," she said, smiling faintly. "But business takes a different kind of mind." A colder one, I assumed. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it show. If I had learned one thing growing up in that house, it was how to stay still while being quietly erased. I placed the folder on the desk anyway. "Just take a look when you can. It might help." My brother didn't even touch it. "Claire, you're sweet, but this isn't a charity pitch. We've got real investors now." That word "real" stung. I looked at them both and realized something had shifted. They weren't my family in that moment. They were partners in something I wasn't invited into. So I smiled. Because that's what you do when you finally stop expecting people to see your worth. You make sure they regret underestimating it. That night I went home and opened my laptop. Not to cry or scroll through old photos. To move money. Quietly. See, they had forgotten that I had worked in venture consulting for 4 years. Quietly building connections while they assumed I was still finding myself. They had forgotten who introduced their main investor to them in the first place. And they had no idea that the same investor had called me 2 days ago, offering me a private partnership in his next fund. I didn't say no. I just told him to wait. Because sometimes revenge doesn't need flames. Sometimes it just needs silence and timing. My name is Claire. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been treated like a stranger in your own family? The next morning I woke to silence. No messages, no calls. Not even a thank you for understanding. I knew them too well. In our family, silence wasn't peace. It was erasure. Mom had always said, "We don't air family business outside these walls." What she meant was, we don't talk about what we do to each other. By afternoon I saw the press release. Alden Group secures $40 million investment for expansion. My brother, Ethan, smiling in a tailored suit, Mom standing beside him, hand on his arm like she was presenting a prince. And there was my idea. My entire proposal, right down to the product line name. They didn't even bother changing it. Just erased my name and put theirs. My heart didn't break this time. It hardened. I didn't cry. I didn't call. Instead I made tea, chamomile slow brewed, and started reading the investor list again. Because the one thing about growing up under people who underestimate you, you learn how to listen when they think you're not paying attention. Ethan had charm. I'll give him that. He could sell sand to a desert. But charm fades when money gets nervous. And I knew their biggest investor, Marcus Hale, hated surprises. I'd met Marcus years ago. Back when I worked quietly in the background at his firm. He once told me over lunch, "Never invest in ego, Claire. It burns faster than cash." That line came back to me now. So I drafted an email. Not dramatic. Just factual. "Marcus, you might want to double-check the Alden Group's filings. Specifically who owns the intellectual property for Solvera, and who filed the original proposal. Hope your due diligence team catches up soon." I hesitated a moment before hitting send. Not because I doubted it, but because I knew what would follow. When you set a fuse like that, you don't stand close to the fire. You walk away. That evening I visited Mom's house. She looked surprised to see me, almost annoyed. "Claire, honey, we're a bit busy. The new investors are flying in tomorrow." "Oh, I know," I said softly. "I just wanted to drop off Dad's old pen. For luck." He smiled politely, oblivious. Ethan appeared behind her, smug and glowing. "Still trying to get in on the action?" he joked. I looked at him, really looked at him and realized something profound. I didn't hate him. I pitied him. Because while he thought he'd won, I had already rewritten the ending. When I got back to my apartment, I had one new email. From Marcus. Just 3 words. Let's talk. Urgent. I closed my laptop and smiled. The fuse was lit. Marcus Hale's office sat high above the city, all glass and quiet power. The kind of space where you hear your own heartbeat. He didn't waste time on pleasantries. Claire, he said, motioning to the chair across from him, tell me what's going on with your family's company. And don't hold back. So I told him. Everything. About the original proposal I wrote. The meetings I'd arranged with suppliers before they cut me out. The way my brother and mother had pitched my concept as if I were some intern who'd once had a cute idea. Marcus listened, the way serious people do, without interrupting, without pity. When I finished, he leaned back, exhaled slowly and said, "That's worse than I thought." He turned his laptop toward me, showing an internal memo. My name was nowhere, but phrases from my documents appeared word for word. They hadn't just stolen the concept. They'd stolen the language. "You were the original IP holder?" he asked. "I have the time-stamped drafts, emails, and a registered business license from before they filed," I said. He smiled, not kindly but knowingly. "Then you're the owner of Solvera, not them. And they just committed corporate fraud on record." I didn't smile. Not yet. Because revenge wasn't a movie montage. It was patience. Precision. Marcus stood and poured himself a drink. "Claire, I'll be honest. I don't like being made a fool of. And if your brother thinks he can build a company on someone else's work, with my money, he's in for a lesson." He handed me a card. "This is my private counsel. You'll need representation." Quietly. His eyes softened slightly. "You remind me of someone I once trusted, until she decided she was smarter than me. Don't make that mistake." I nodded. "I'm not trying to ruin them, Marcus. Just balance the scales." "Good," he said. "Because when you pull the strings, you want it to look like they fell on their own." That night, I walked home under city lights that glimmered like 1,000 small secrets. Part of me wanted to call Mom. Tell her what she'd done. What she'd lost. But I didn't. Because the thing about betrayal is, once it happens, explanations are pointless. The love you thought would anchor you just becomes evidence of how naive you were. So instead, I started drafting a new plan. A silent takeover. Not to destroy Alden Group, but to reclaim what was mine. One document, one partnership, one whispered phone call at a time. I reached out to people they never noticed. Assistants, suppliers, quiet executives who'd once rolled their eyes at Ethan's arrogance. The ones who'd seen the truth but stayed quiet. They started replying. One by one. By the end of the week, my phone buzzed with a message that made my chest tighten. From an old contact in logistics. "You were right. Ethan's cutting corners. Compliance will love this." And that's when I realized, I didn't need to destroy him. He was already building his own downfall. When I was a kid, my mother's hands were always busy. Folding laundry, stirring soup, correcting my posture with a light tap. I used to think those hands could fix anything. Now I realized they were also capable of taking. The next week blurred into quiet motion. Emails, whispers, late-night calls. Every thread I pulled from Alden Group's operations led back to one name. Not Ethan's. Hers. My mother, Eleanor Alden. The matriarch. The strategist. The one who made Ethan look like he was in charge while she orchestrated every move behind the curtain. I found invoices signed under her initials, deals routed through shell companies she controlled, and silent agreements to divert profits. All carefully hidden in a web of respectability. It wasn't just business theft anymore. It was betrayal built on legacy. The worst part, I recognized her precision. Her tone. Her fingerprints on every line. She taught me how to write business memos when I was 15. Now I could spot her sentence structure like a ghost on paper. I met Marcus again at a quiet bar downtown. He scanned the documents I brought him, then looked at me with something close to admiration. "You're meticulous," he said. "They have no idea what's coming, do they?" "No," I replied. "They still think I'm the girl who flinches when she's ignored." He smirked. Good. Keep it that way. Marcus slid a folder across the table. Inside was a draft. A quiet transfer of equity from Alden Group's subsidiary holdings to a new entity. My name was on it. You're going to own the parts they don't think matter, he said. The side companies they use for testing and logistics. They're not watching those. And then, he said, sipping his whiskey, you wait until they need them. That night I couldn't sleep. Not from guilt, from memory. I remembered being 16 showing Mom my first small business plan for a handmade jewelry brand. She'd smiled gently and said, "You're sweet, Claire. But maybe something more realistic." She never crushed dreams directly. She just turned them into air. And now I saw it for what it was, control disguised as care. By morning I'd signed the documents. A new company was born. Lunara Holdings. My name was on every legal line. Quiet. Invisible. Secure. A week later, Alden Group unknowingly began leasing warehouse space owned by Lunara. Their payments came directly to me. They were funding their own undoing. The final confirmation came late one night. An email from a journalist I hadn't spoken to in years. Heard a rumor your family's using falsified green certifications. Care to comment? I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen, heart steady. Because now it wasn't just business anymore. It was truth, finally catching up. Every family has an image. Ours was immaculate, framed in mahogany, polished for guests, and utterly false. Now the cracks were beginning to show. 3 weeks after I founded Lunara Holdings, the first ripple hit. A quiet audit request from the Environmental Standards Bureau. Ethan brushed it off publicly, routine procedure, he told the press. But behind closed doors I knew what those words really meant. Panic. He wasn't built for pressure. He was built for applause. And Mom, she was too proud to notice the tide turning. I watched from a distance as headlines began to twist. Alden Group's sustainability claims under review. Former consultant raises questions about IP ownership. That last one made me pause. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I didn't leak it. Someone else had. Marcus maybe. Or one of his people. Either way, the fuse I'd lit had found new oxygen. That evening Ethan called. For the first time in months. His voice carried that old brotherly warmth, but under it, fear. "Hey Claire. How've you been? Listen, you wouldn't happen to know anything about this audit crap, would you?" I let silence stretch for a beat. Audit? Well, why? Just some mix-up. You know how bureaucrats are. I could almost hear his fake smile cracking. "You sound nervous," I said quietly. "I'm not. Just, Mom's under stress. She doesn't need more drama." "Of course not," I said. "Tell her I said hi." Then I hung up. Later that night I opened my laptop and stared at a photo. The three of us at a charity gala from years ago. Mom in pearls, Ethan with a grin too wide, me in a dress she picked because it looked modest. We looked happy. But I remembered exactly what happened after that photo. She'd leaned in and whispered, "You don't need to talk so much tonight, dear. Let your brother handle the business people." And I had listened. For years. Now Lunara Holdings was quietly absorbing more. Their suppliers, their storage leases, even their PR subcontractor. Piece by piece, Alden Group's skeleton was becoming mine. Marcus called me late that night. "You're good at this," he said. "I learned from the best," I replied. "Your mother." "My mistake." He laughed, low and approving. "They'll come to you soon. When they realize they're drowning, they'll look for someone calm enough to pull them out. Be ready for that moment." He was right. 2 days later I got an email from Mom. Short, polite, but shaking beneath the surface. "Claire dear, can we talk? Perhaps over lunch? I think we've all misunderstood a few things." I read it twice, then smiled to myself. For the first time in my life, my mother wasn't summoning me. She was asking. My mother chose the restaurant, of course. She always did. White tablecloths, soft piano, and the kind of lighting that made secrets look elegant. When I arrived, she was already seated, flawless as ever. Diamond earrings. A cream blazer. Composure sculpted like marble. She smiled when she saw me, but the warmth didn't reach her eyes. "Claire, You look well. So do you, I said, considering the headlines. A flicker, quick, almost imperceptible, crossed her face. Then she smoothed it away. Ah yes. Some unnecessary noise. It will pass. She sipped her water and looked at me over the rim of her glass. You've always been so calm. I admire that. I almost laughed. This was her way of disarming. Compliment before correction. You wanted to talk? I asked. She nodded. I think we've let too much pride get in the way. Your brother is under tremendous pressure. Perhaps it's time we work together again. The words work together tasted like ash. She wasn't here to reconcile. She was here to recruit. And what exactly would I be doing? I asked. Helping us clean up this PR mess. You were always good with strategy. And my name on the Solvera proposal? Oh, Claire, she sighed softly. Must we bring that up? Family shouldn't keep score. That was her weapon, guilt. Delivered gently like a kiss with teeth behind it. I smiled. You're right, Mom. Family shouldn't keep score. I leaned in, lowering my voice. That's why I already forgave you. Her eyes flickered again. This time she didn't hide it fast enough. Forgave me. For stealing my work. For teaching me that love comes with terms and conditions. For pretending control was care. Her fork froze halfway to her plate. Careful, Claire, she said quietly. Anger doesn't suit you. It's not anger, I said. It's clarity. I stood, laying my napkin on the table. You'll be hearing from Marcus soon. You might want to take that call. Her composure faltered for the first time. Marcus Hale? What does he have to do with? Everything, I said softly. Enjoy lunch, Mom. Outside the air felt lighter. I walked down the quiet street, heels clicking like punctuation marks in a sentence I'd been writing for years. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Transfer complete. Alden Group owes Lenara Holdings 3 months back rent. We'll let the auditors discover it. I looked up at the pale afternoon sky and exhaled. For the first time in a long time I wasn't angry. Just free. Because revenge isn't chaos. It's control reclaimed. The first headline hit on a Monday morning. Alden Group faces financial irregularities. Major investor withdraws funding. By noon it was everywhere. By nightfall Ethan called. I didn't answer. I watched the storm from my apartment. City lights reflecting off the glass like 1,000 silent witnesses. For years I'd imagined this moment. But I never thought it would feel so calm. The next day Marcus sent me a short message. They'll reach out soon. Let them. He was right. By Wednesday my mother's assistant called. By Thursday Ethan showed up at my door. He looked smaller somehow. The tailored suit couldn't hold him together anymore. Eyes bloodshot, voice sharp with desperation. Claire, you have to help us. I stayed silent. Mom's losing it. The investors are gone, the warehouses are locked. Even our PR firm dropped us. They said Lenara Holdings owns half our logistics now. What the hell is Lenara? I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time he saw it. The stillness that comes after you stop trying to be heard. Lenara, I said softly, is what happens when you underestimate me. He blinked. What are you talking about? You remember that day you laughed at me? When I offered to help. You told me my money was pocket change. Claire. You were right, I said. But pocket change adds up when you know where to put it. His jaw tightened. You think this is funny? You're ruining everything Dad built. No, I interrupted. You did that when you stole what wasn't yours. For a moment he just stood there, speechless. The same brother who'd mocked me, dismissed me, cut me out of my own dream. Now he couldn't even form a defense. You don't understand, Claire, he whispered finally. Mom. She was only trying to protect us. That word, protect, hit like ice water. She wasn't protecting us, I said. She was protecting control. And you let her. He sank into the chair across from me, head in his hands. What happens now? You'll sell. You'll settle the debts. The investors will recover what they can. And you? I'll rebuild Solvera. Properly this time. He looked up, tears glinting in his eyes. We're family, Claire. I felt something twist in my chest. Not pity, not anger. Just the faint echo of what love used to feel like. We were, I said quietly. Until family stopped meaning trust. He didn't argue. He just stood, nodded once and left, closing the door softly behind him. Outside the world went on. Cars moved. People laughed. Life didn't care that one family's empire had crumbled. But I did. Because it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. Finally standing where lies used to be. 2 months later, the Alden name disappeared from the business pages. No bankruptcy announcement. No scandalous exposé. Just silence. The kind of silence that follows a storm when there's nothing left to blow away. Marcus called one last time. It's done, he said. They've settled with the auditors. No one's going to jail, but they won't recover. Good, I said softly. No headlines. No drama. You could have taken more, you know, he said. A lot more. I didn't want their money, I replied. Just my name back. He was quiet for a moment. Then, in a rare tone of respect, he said, You got it. Solvera's yours. Full ownership restored. When the call ended, I sat there in the quiet hum of my apartment. The same one I'd cried in, planned in, waited in. Now it felt still. I opened my laptop and looked at the new website. Solvera by Claire Alden. Minimalist. Honest. No grand mission statement. Just a single line beneath the logo. Built from truth. A week later I met my mother again. Not in a restaurant this time. At the nursing wing of a private clinic where she'd been staying after a stress-induced collapse. She wasn't dying, just diminished, stripped of her armor. She looked at me, tired but proud. You won, she said. It wasn't a game, I replied. I suppose not. Why, Mom? I asked quietly. Why take everything from me when you had everything already? She didn't answer for a while. Then she said, Because you reminded me of who I used to be. And I couldn't stand it. For the first time in my life I believed her. And for the first time I didn't feel small. I reached out, covering her frail hand with mine. I forgive you, I whispered. Her eyes softened just slightly. You sound like your father, she said. He always believed people could change. Maybe he was wrong, I said. Maybe, she breathed, smiling faintly. But maybe not. I stood, kissed her forehead and left. That evening I walked to the water. The city shimmered in the distance, alive and indifferent. I thought of Dad, of Ethan, of everything that had collapsed and everything that had quietly bloomed from the ashes. Revenge hadn't healed me. It had simply cleared the noise so I could finally hear my own voice again. I took a deep breath, the air sharp and clean, and whispered to no one in particular. I'm done. Then I turned away, not triumphant, not broken, just free. Because sometimes closure doesn't roar. It exhales.